You know that person who never posts anything. No selfies, no stories, no updates. While everyone else is busy documenting their life, they're just living it. At first glance, they seem invisible in a world that rewards attention. But what if they're not missing out at all? What if they've quietly figured out something most people are still trapped inside? Let me ask you something. When was the last time you posted on social media? Now think about the last time you almost posted, but didn't. That pause matters more than you think. Because in that tiny moment, between opening the camera and hitting share, your brain runs a silent interrogation. Is this good enough? Will people like it? Does this make my life look successful, interesting, worthy? And suddenly, something that was supposed to be casual feels like a performance. Psychologists have been studying this for decades, long before social media even existed. A sociologist named Irving Goffman explained that humans naturally manage impressions. We adjust how we act depending on who's watching. Different masks for different audiences. Social media didn't invent this behavior. It amplified it. It took a normal human instinct and placed it on a permanent stage with a global audience. Now your awkward moment isn't just awkward, it's archived. Your words don't fade. They linger. They wait to be judged again and again. So when someone chooses not to post, they're not being boring. They're stepping off the stage. Studies show that nearly 30 to 40% of users are what researchers call lurkers. People who scroll, watch, observe, but rarely share anything themselves. The word sounds negative, almost suspicious. Like they're hiding. But psychology tells a very different story. Research published in Frontiers in Psychology found that the pressure to post, combined with fear of judgment and privacy concerns, creates mental exhaustion. The constant comparison. The awareness of being watched. The expectation to perform. Eventually, the brain does what it always does when overwhelmed. It disengages. Not because the person is weak, but because the brain is protecting itself. Think about how comparison really works. You're scrolling on a random Tuesday afternoon. You see promotions, vacations, perfect bodies, engagements, achievements. You know, logically, that this is a highlight reel. You know it's filtered, curated, edited. But your subconscious doesn't care. It doesn't analyze context. It just registers one thing: they're ahead, and I'm not. That's why even passive scrolling can lower mood and self-esteem. Even when you don't post, your brain is still under attack. People who stop posting, or never start, often understand something instinctively. The game is rigged. Everyone controls the angles, the timing, the narrative. Why voluntarily compete in a system designed to make you feel behind? There's a psychological framework called self-determination theory. It says humans thrive when three needs are met: autonomy, competence, and connection. Social media pretends to offer all three, but quietly undermines the first one. Autonomy means feeling in control of your choices. Likes, views, reactions, these are external rewards. They slowly train your brain to outsource self-worth. Your confidence becomes conditional, not internal. People who don't post often have something powerful: internal validation. Their sense of worth isn't measured in numbers. They don't need strangers to confirm that their life is meaningful. That doesn't make them antisocial. It makes them grounded. Think about someone you know who rarely posts. When you actually meet them in real life, are they empty? Depressed? Disconnected? Usually, no. They're often calmer. More present. More engaged in conversation. Because they're not splitting their attention between living the moment and thinking about how to present it. There's a trap most people don't see coming. Even when you know social media is fake, it still affects you. Psychologists call this the illusion of transparency. Knowing something is staged doesn't neutralize its emotional impact. Your brain reacts first. Logic arrives later. People who don't post minimize this exposure. Not completely, but enough to protect their mental balance. They're not avoiding reality. They're avoiding distortion. This is why many of them gravitate toward platforms like YouTube instead of Instagram or TikTok. Long-form content doesn't demand performance. You can consume without being seen. Learn without being evaluated. Laugh without being measured. No one questions why you didn't upload your life this week. It's content without surveillance. Another fascinating pattern shows up in relationships. People who avoid posting tend to have fewer friends, but deeper ones. They prioritize real conversations over digital visibility. 5 people who genuinely know you will always matter more than 500 who recognize your face. Psychology consistently shows that relationship quality predicts happiness far better than quantity. 10 honest conversations beat 1,000 likes. And here's something most people miss. Not posting doesn't mean not caring. In fact, these individuals are often highly observant. They notice patterns. Changes in tone. Sudden silence. Forced positivity. They see the cracks others scroll past. They're not checked out. They're paying attention. Psychologists distinguish between public self-consciousness and private self-consciousness. Public self-consciousness is worrying about how you appear. Private self-consciousness is awareness of your own thoughts, emotions, and values. People who don't post lean heavily toward the second. Instead of asking, "How will this look?" they ask, "How does this feel?" That shift changes everything. When you're not constantly managing an audience, your mind has space. Space to reflect. To question. To grow. To build an identity that exists even when no one is watching. And that creates something rare in the modern world. A self that doesn't require witnesses. Choosing not to post isn't hiding. It's control. It's deciding that your private moments aren't content. That some experiences lose value when they're performed. That a sunset is more beautiful when you're not framing it for approval. That a conversation matters more when you're fully inside it, not mentally writing a caption. Researchers have found that people who rarely post often show higher emotional stability. Their mood isn't tied to algorithms. Their self-worth doesn't fluctuate with engagement. They're playing a longer game. Here's the paradox no one talks about. The traits that lead people away from social media, self-awareness, autonomy, security, are the same things social media promises to give. Connection. Expression. Belonging. But instead, it created a performance economy. Where silence feels suspicious. Where privacy looks strange. Where being real is risky. So when someone opts out, they're not rejecting connection. They're rejecting the terms. They're saying, "I'll connect, but without the show. Without the scoreboard. Without turning my life into content." So ask yourself this. What if the people who don't use social media aren't behind? What if they're early? What if choosing depth over visibility, privacy over posts, and presence over performance isn't antisocial, but self-respect? Because at the end of life, no one wishes they'd posted more. But many wish they'd lived more. The quiet ones aren't hiding in the shadows. They're just living in a place where cameras can't reach. If this made you think, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support these deep psychological explorations, consider becoming a channel member. I genuinely appreciate your support.